Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. Today we're talking about Dreamers, or what the Elves call Somniari. We'll take a look at a few of the Dreamers we know of, with a special emphasis on Feynriel, who it appears is a more popular character than I realized. If he was sent to Tevinter, I'm sure he'll at least have a cameo in the next game, but I doubt he'll be a companion. I'll get to that. For now, I want to address the fact that they should have picked a different name. Because we can encounter people in the Fade who are dreaming, and the game also refers to them as dreamers. But they aren't dreamers like Feynriel. So not all dreamers are dreamers. See what I mean? They should have picked a different name. We could say Somniari to differentiate them, but they're grammatically the exact same word. Somniar means to dream. Somniari means dreamer. So even in the Elven language, they face the same problem. Whatever. For this video, unless otherwise stated, every time I say dreamer, I'll be referring to dreamers like Feynriel. Confused yet? Welcome to Thedas. So what is a dreamer? How are they different from a normal mage? Well, dreamers can enter the Fade at will. They can also shape the Fade more so than the average mage. Now this leads to a new bit of confusion. I think the deal is mages normally need a lot of Lyrium and or several mages in order to enter the Fade where and when they want to. That's why in Origins we needed the Circle to help confront the demon in the Fade, instead of just going to sleep. Alternatively, we could use blood magic, even though blood magic supposedly makes it harder to connect to the Fade, so dreamers can enter the Fade where and when they want to, without the additional aid of other mages or Lyrium. That's the main thing that separates them from other mages. In addition, they have an easier time navigating the Fade, perhaps because they are more able to shape it to their will. In ancient Tevinter, this was used to find the dreams of others. Dreamers could permanently kill people from the Fade. When normal people kill someone in the Fade, they just wake up. Although if a dreamer is killed in the Fade, they become tranquil. This is not true of normal mages. Normal mages also normally just wake up, unless killed by a dreamer. It remains to be seen what becomes of a dreamer killed in the Fade by another dreamer. This was the case with Felasan in the Masked Empire. It is entirely possible that his killer didn't know that a dreamer killed in the Fade might just become tranquil, because his killer lived in a time before the Veil. So tranquility may not have even existed, and a dreamer becoming tranquil because they were killed in the Fade was never common. Now let's talk about some examples of dreamers. The first recorded human dreamer was a man named Thalcion who came from the Naromenian tribes that preceded Tevinter. He and other dreamers claimed to have visions of the realm of the gods, whatever that means, and that Dumat was the first to teach them blood magic. There are varying accounts of how humans first learned blood magic. This is just one of them. Others include the Forbidden Ones, or just run-of-the-mill demons, and some even believe humans first learned blood magic from the Elves. In any event, Thalcion and the Dreamers became priests and kings. Eventually, the Imperium was founded by a dreamer named Durenius, who has a long history of his own. For now, let's just say he was a powerful dreamer who unified Tevinter. Now, dreamers were not common in ancient Tevinter, but they also weren't too rare. Now, we know that after the Sidereal Magisters broke into the Black City, the old gods stopped communicating with the dreamers. What's odd is that dreamers also became less and less common. Through generations, less and less dreamers were being born. Attempts to specifically breed dreamers ended up failing. The Dalish apparently had a couple in some of their clans, but even they were extremely rare. Which brings us to Feynriel, considered to be the first human dreamer in hundreds of years. Though we later find out that Aurelian Titus was also a dreamer. Now, Feynriel, in case any of you don't remember or didn't play Dragon Age 2, I'll do a quick rundown of his story. Feynriel was the son of a former Dalish elf named Ariane and an Antivan merchant named Vincento. Vincento basically abandoned Ariane and their child after she told him she was pregnant. Ariane left the Dalish to raise her son in Kirkwall. So we first encounter Feynriel in Act 1 when his mother, Ariane, asks us to track him down after he ran away from home. See, he had started developing magic, but his mother was terrified of losing him to the Circle, so she protected him and used her limited knowledge of Dalish magic to teach him to hide it. Although eventually it became clear that he was unlike any mage she had encountered. He began having progressively worse nightmares involving demons. Sometimes he would enter trance-like states that could last for hours, and more. Feeling like she had no choice, she called the Templars, specifically Thrask, who she knew was sympathetic to mages. She was hoping the Circle could help her son, because she couldn't. Feynriel found out and ran away from home, where he was kidnapped by slavers until Hawke rescues him. He explains his plan was to find the Dalish, since his mother was Dalish, and he was hoping they could help him figure out what was up with his magic. Hawke has the choice of either sending him to Marathari's clan, or recommending he go to the Circle. If you send him to the Circle, they are unable to help him. Because Kirkwall's Circle was so restrictive, they just didn't have the resources to figure out what was going on with him. His condition worsened, he was unable to control his ability, and so the Templars were forced to make him tranquil. I say forced, but really the Templars just forced themselves by creating a problem they couldn't solve. If you send him to the Dalish, Marathari agrees to help him however she can, but it's a work in progress. 3 years later, in Act 2, we encounter him again when Arianni asks for our help. While with the Dalish, he entered into a deep sleep and stayed asleep for days. Marathari comes to Kirkwall to perform a ritual which involves sending you into the Fade. It's here she explains that Feynriel is a dreamer and what that means. She warns you of the danger of Feynriel being possessed, and tells Hawke if he can't be helped, Hawke should kill him. A death in the Fade for a dreamer would render him tranquil, as opposed to other mages who simply wake up. We encounter dreams of Feynriel's desires and pride, where demons may attempt to tempt our companions, most of whom give in. A demon of sloth in particular asks for help possessing Feynriel. I appreciate that the game lets you do that, but yeah, I could never choose that. Well, we free Feynriel from the demon's temptations, and if we kill the sloth demon, Feynriel says he's free.
The Fade feels different now. I see the stitches, the seams holding it together. I feel I could wake at any moment.
It's here we either kill him, which makes him tranquil, or we let him wake up and he sets off to Tevinter, since they're the only ones with the knowledge to help him master his abilities. We later receive a letter that explains he was taken as an apprentice to a magister, and that he is doing well. If it seems weird to you a magister would take on a random foreign kid as an apprentice, bear in mind Feynriel is a dreamer and they are very rare, so Feynriel would be an invaluable apprentice to any magister. That's the kind of thing magisters brag about. In Act 3, we get a letter from some guy who asks us to rescue his daughter who was kidnapped by bandits and taken to the Wounded Coast, where we find all the bandits already dead. She says Feynriel had come to her in dreams and that she had fallen in love with him. All the bandits had killed each other after arguing which of them, would claim her maidenhood. Whether or not Feynriel had anything to do with this, we can't really say. Well, in any event, more bandits come to find us and their dead fellows. We kill them, and the woman exclaims she's going to find Feynriel. There's no real explanation as to why Feynriel sought out this woman all the way from Tevinter. I assume he had a crush on her when he was in Kirkwall and sought her out once he had more control of his abilities. But it seems she didn't recognize him or even his name when he came to her. So, I guess she never met him personally, he just kind of admired her from afar? And that's creepy. It's romantic in its own way, but it's still creepy. I mean, he never spoke to this girl, just admired her from afar. Then he courts her by literally invading her dreams. This girl seems a tad naive. She's a virgin in Kirkwall, and Feynriel somehow knew her when he was barely a teenager? And her father seems like a prominent citizen, but Feynriel lived in the alienage, which was like the poor part of the poor part of the city. So maybe this guy employed elves, or was like some kind of businessman helping the alienage, and he brought his daughter with her when he visited sometimes, and Feynriel could never talk to her. But it seems like the elves in Kirkwall didn't have any help from humans. So, I mean, that's just the best explanation I can come up with. Either that, or he literally stalked her when he was a kid. But she seems pretty sheltered, so I don't know how he could have. The only other option I can think of is that he went from dream to dream until he found a woman he liked. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt and go with the first option. Altruistic businessman's daughter and the poor human kid living with elves. I'd assume he was more likely to find a woman in Tevinter who liked him, but, well, you know, I'm just gonna move on. If you allowed Feynriel to be possessed, we find out he has been manipulating people. He told some guys that some guards were thieves, and so they went and killed them. He becomes known as the Dream Stalker, which is a pretty cool name, I have to admit. Sounds like a future boss battle in this particular world state. I want to see more stuff like that. Entire boss battles or quests depending on choices from previous games. It's not that big of an undertaking, though in this case I'd like to think almost no one allowed him to be possessed and imports that world state. So yeah, there's where our information on him ends. So what's next? Well, given he can be made tranquil in 2 different ways or become an abomination, I sincerely doubt he'll be a companion. That said, I do think he'll show up in the next game if he was sent to Tevinter. Initially, I assumed it would be anywhere from a cameo like Connor in Inquisition, to a larger role like Hawke or the Warden ally. But the more I think about it, he has a lot of potential, and not just because we're going to Tevinter and that's where he is, but because he's a dreamer. So his assistance against Solas and the Wolfpack would be invaluable. Solas can kill people from the Fade, so maybe a dreamer will have some kind of defense against that. It's also said that the Litany of Adralla also works against dreamers, but I'm not sure how you would use it. I guess you just have to say the words while in the Fade yourself. But yeah, and as far as Feynriel goes, I could see him having a key role in the fight against Solas. You know, maybe there will be a system like the war assets from Mass Effect 3, where you collect everything you can to help you in the fight, and you have a nice laid out list of everything and everyone, and what exactly their purpose is. I'd like them to be more useful than the war assets ended up being, but this sounds like a good concept. This isn't the video for that. I need to make one for mechanics, but I just thought of that and I didn't want to forget it. So here's where I'll wrap things up. To recap, Dreamers should have a better name. They can control and understand the Fade on a deeper level than most. Navigating the Fade is a lot easier for them. They can enter the Fade at will without the aid of Lyrium. They can manipulate people's dreams and by extension the people themselves. They can kill people from their dreams. Feynriel will probably show up in the next game. What role he'll have is up in the air. It could be a whole plotline or just a cameo. He might be a stalker, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. If he's possessed, he becomes a whole different kind of stalker. He might be tranquil, which sucks. Actually, come to think of it, if he is tranquil, maybe we'll encounter him anyway. He could still be an asset if, as a tranquil, he studied things that could help against Solas. I think in that case, we'd encounter him in a different place. Like if you sent him to Tevinter, he's either still an apprentice or a magister, and at this point has control over his abilities. If he's tranquil, maybe he goes to Navarra looking for a job with the Mortalitasi after the Kirkwall Rebellion, or after the Circles were officially dissolved. I think if he's tranquil, it'll just be a cameo, but if he's in Tevinter, it'll be a larger role. So here's where we'll end things. What are your thoughts on Dreamers and Feynriel? What role might they play in the future? If you want to talk about this or anything Dragon Age related, jump on over to Discord where you can chat with me and other fans. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like, and remember, Tala Nadas.